This lesson is how to draw shadow effects in your body CAD. Shadow effects, basically, if you look at these photos here, are the way that the light hits a garment. So we want to express that in our CAD look as well. So you can see some darker colors happening in the areas where the quilted stitching and the fabric gathers meet, as well as under the sleeve. There's some darker shadows, and then there's some lighter cast shadows here where the light's hitting in the front. So basically we're just going to give that illusion along our quilted areas in our puffer coat. So the first thing I want to do is take my finished front view and I want to lock it. So I'm just going to hover over the whole thing and do an object lock selection over the whole thing, object lock selection. And then you're going to lock the body CAD because I'm going to draw this detail over top of it. And I just don't want to accidentally grab at any of my fabric gather lines or my seam lines and mess them up. So basically what I'm going to do is fill my fill box with black, and my stroke box has a no fill color. And I'm going to take the pencil tool, double click on it, and check your pencil tool options are in the middle right here. This blue dot should be in between the word accurate and smooth, and then hit OK. And basically what I'm going to do is zoom in. And I'm just going to start drawing. Maybe I'll zoom out just one time so I can see the full length of the CAD. I'm going to start to draw my shadow effects in specific areas. So usually I draw them on the outside of sleeve, under the sleeve, along the side seam, and then I draw some random ones like along the quilting lines and some up in the hood. So what I'm going to do is just draw just random shapes that kind of go in and out here. And I'm just going to do one so you can see how I'm drawing it. And then I'm going to go back over, and I'm holding the pencil tool down the whole time with the mouse. I'm not letting go for 1 second. I'm holding it all the way down until I feel like I'm done drawing. So something like that. And then you double click on your fill box. Sorry, have your fill box on top and go to window color because that's where our black and white chip is. Click on the black chip and turn that pencil line I just drew into a black filled shape. And what you're going to do to make that opaque, I don't love with this one, so I'm going to use the one that I did here. But basically, I just wanted to show you how I drew it and where I drew it on the garment. When you have it as a black filled shape like it is now, you're going to click on opacity. Opacity should be up here in your control panel. If it's not, you want to make sure you go under window and double check the application and control, have a check mark next to them, or you will not see opacity listed. So click on the black filled shape that you just did for your shadow effects with the black arrow. Take the opacity tool and bring it down to probably roughly below 30%. I would say would be my recommendation for shadow effects. And you can see that the shadow effect now, you can actually see the quilt lines and the fabric motion lines coming through what once was a black filled shape. It's still black filled, but opacity allows things to be see-through. So that's the way you're going to create all your shadow effects. And if you don't like something the way you drew it, if it's sticking out above the body CAD, you always can take the white arrow and that shape that you just drew with the pencil tool, you can always manipulate it and pull the points in or manipulate the shape in any way using the white arrow after you've drawn it. So basically go through your garment CAD and start to add shadow effects. And I'm just going to show you the ones that I added. So give you a point of reference on where you maybe want to put your shadow effects. You're only going to do them on a half a body, half of the drawing, because you're going to use the shadow effects you made over here on the left side. You're going to copy and paste them and reflect them onto the right. But just as a reference on where I put my shadow effects on this quilted jacket. So I put some along the edge of the hood, one inside the hood opening here, on the outside of the sleeve, some on the inside of the sleeve, but everything kind of rotates around the area of the quilting. And then I put some along here along the side seam, and then some coming off the sides of the zipper but pulling inward along the quilt line. So once you have that, what I do is I object group the body shadows only, and I leave the hood shadows as its own grouping. Copy and paste them, object transform, reflect them, and here's my other shadows here now on the right side just reflected. And just line them back up on the same side here. And if you need to do a little manipulation, remember you always have the white arrow. The thing I don't like when I copy and paste my shadows is now they look exactly the same. They pretty much are very matchy-matchy. And you can see in this area right here and here, I don't love that they look the same. So I actually try and change them up a little bit on one side to make them a little bit more organic looking and less symmetrical. So shadow effects are a little less symmetrical and just a little bit more natural. So I highlighted here in blue the ones that I manipulated from the ones that I copied. So this is where the white arrow comes in really handy. So you can move them and kind of make your own new shapes. You can also object ungroup the the right side of the shadows that you copied, and you can move them around to different places and, you know, put them in a different spot to kind of make them look a little different as well. But basically just remember that everything's quilted, so this area in here should be very puffed looking, so that you want to think about that when you're making your shadow effects. So these blue ones you see here are the ones that I manipulated a little bit. And then going down to my front view CAD, that's finished. Now you can see all my finished copy. You can see my right side shadows are slightly different than my left side shadows, but they did start from the same place. I did copy and paste them and use the same ones. I just manipulated, added a couple new ones with the pencil tool, and just made them look a little bit different. And we only have 2 shadows here at the hood. Now the same thing, you're gonna, once you do your shadow effects here on the front view CAD, you're going to group them all. So let me just go right here. You're going to group all the body ones, even the new ones that I made. Let me just change those into black filled. Okay, so now I have the shadow effects that once were that blue color. I just made them blue so you guys can see the new ones I added. I have them now here as a same opacity and black filled color that I have on the left side. So once you add new shadow effects, all you have to do is eyedrop onto the ones you already had, and it'll copy the same opacity number and the same color. So now I'm going to just group all the ones on the right side. And I want you to notice I also added some down here in the rib area as well. So I'm just going to object group them with the left side shadows, and I'm going to leave the hood shadows ungrouped. I'll leave them as their own grouping, actually, to get as their own separate grouping, because the shadows in the back view are going to be different. So once you have your shadow effects all grouped, I like to group my shadow effects separate of my body because I want to copy and paste them and bring them over to my back view. So you can see them now here on my back view. I want to use them on my back view as well, but again, with the back view, remember there's no zipper going down the center like I have at the center front view. So that's going to make my shadow effects look a little weird, especially down the middle. So that's where you want to, either object ungroup some of these and start to play with them, move them around. I might have to ungroup twice. And you'll just start to maybe get rid of that one because it's in a real weird place. You might start to take some of them with the black arrow, object ungroup again, because that right side had some. And then you can maybe stretch some out along the quilted line. You can take some of them and rotate them if you wanted to make a different look. But again, let everything kind of exist, especially on this horizontal part through the body, along the stitch line. And let everything kind of exist along there. This shadow effect doesn't make any sense now that I don't have a zipper. So I might delete that and kind of play with maybe stretching this one out instead. And just start to play with, you might even want to add new ones. So you can always take the pencil tool and draw a new shape. But everything should kind of look very focused around the area that exists, which is, this is the tunnel of the stitching where all that puffed insulation filling is happening. So modify your back view. I think the sleeves will probably be fine, but modify definitely in here in the front. And again, make it look a little more organic and make sure that there's a little bit more motion, fabric shadows going across the main horizontal places like I have here. So this is my finished back view. And then for the hood, you really don't need this one that we had that was existing in here in the hood opening because there is no hood opening. So you might want to just add another shadow effect here on the side that's just there next to the other side of the hood, or maybe one around the neckline. But basically, once you have your back view shadows, please group them separately, just like we group these. So group all your shadow effects, including the hood, group them, and then object group your whole back view when it's done. So object group your front view, your shadow effects separately, object group your front view. When you're done, object group your back view and have them all together as one. But I just want to make sure the shadow effects are separate, because then you can actually pull them off the garment CAD and you can use them for other garment CADs later. Here's what your CAD template's going to look like for the puffer jacket. CAD number 6 is this, and the description is quilted puffer jacket. You got your front view and back view listed. Here's your front view, back view on the right, and then name and date. And that concludes this project.